Okay, in this video we continue to look at adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. Right now we're looking only at examples where we actually do have a common denominator. So we begin with this problem. Again, we're starting out with a common denominator. Now here's where you have to be a little careful. When you're subtracting off a fraction, we have a quantity here, 5x plus 2, on that is the numerator in the second fraction. It's being subtracted. There's a little pitfall here that a lot of students sometimes run into, and it's because they're not being careful. So whenever you write that minus, you have to understand, goes with the whole numerator. So that negative sign, the subtraction, is going to distribute through that whole numerator, 5x plus 12. Now I like to write that out. I would encourage you as you're first doing this to write those out. If you want to jump the gun, as long as you remember to distribute the negative sign through to each piece, you can go ahead and do that. Saves yourself a step of writing, but again, make sure to do that. Don't forget that. By writing it out, as I did here, you'll be less likely to forget to distribute the negative sign. At this point, we can combine like terms. We have a 10x and a minus 5x that can go together. And so now we've gotten it down to a single fraction. Now at this point you always want to look to see if you can simplify. So to do that you'll want to take that numerator and see if you can factor it. Turns out this can be factored, and I'm going to ask you on your own, pause the video and try to factor that thing and then catch up with this. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. We've done a lot of these factoring problems, so you should be getting fairly good at them now. And here we go. Alright, we first look at things that multiply to be negative, or 2 times negative 12 be negative 24, that add to be a positive 5. That would be an 8x and a negative 3. And so we rewrite it as plus 8x minus 3x, and then we factor by grouping. And when we factor by grouping, we get the answer x plus 4 times 2x minus 3. So now that we've done the work to factor, and I'll be honest, most of them aren't going to factor like this. They're not going to be as overly complicated as this, but some of them do. So you do have to look to simplify. We can now take that result and rewrite it. Again, we can rewrite it down in either order, and then simplify by canceling out common factors. In this case, we cancel out an x plus 4 and an x plus 4, and we're left with just 2x minus 3. Probably by far one of the harder ones, whether you have a common denominator or not, because you do have that extra work of factoring. Our next example is not quite as bad. Still though, we're subtracting something off that has a quantity in the numerator. Again, I encourage you to take the time and write that out. And at the very least, remember you must distribute. So we can distribute the negative through. We get 2x plus 1 minus 3x minus 6. And then at this point, we want to combine like terms. So we have a 2x minus 3x would be a negative x. 1 minus 6 would be minus 5. So now we have something that looks very similar in both top and bottom. Negative x minus 5 over x minus 5. Remember, if they look like they're kind of similar, you may want to try to factor out a negative to see if they're the same. Now taking a negative out of the top leaves with negative 1 times x plus 5 over x minus 5. They're not the same. And so actually either one of those two answers would have been perfectly fine. You could have left it as negative x minus 5 over x minus 5. Or you can leave it after you factor out the negative. Either one's fine, they're both correct. Okay, in our next videos we're going to start looking at how to deal with problems when we don't have a common denominator. Now, in some previous videos we've talked about how to find a common denominator, so you may want to go back and watch those, because we're going to be making use of that again now as we add and subtract fractions that don't have a common denominator.